Thank you all for joining. I can see that we have a few people onboarded. So we already have Rajesh, who's a pre-sales lead for cloud and enterprise from NetApp. And introducing myself again, I'm Vijay Nehra from SISL Infotech. I'm part of pre-sales team for SISL Infotech. Today, we welcome you all and really appreciate your time and thanks for joining us so that we can here discuss few things regarding strategies to enable business continuity and how can we as an SI and NetApp as a business partner, as an OEM, can help us enable build on this so that we can discuss. There are few things, scenarios where situation is called upon scenarios, in which cases business continuity has become paramount because of COVID-19 situations. There are a couple of things which have become more important than others in order to continue working so that we can have output in a manner as we used to have probably a quarter back. We have come across business have asked us to help them enable with business continuity in a manner so that where VDIs, virtual desktop infrastructure, or end user computing has become extremely important. Now, there has always been a saying in IT, providing a service is easy, but providing a service which you are responsible. That means providing a service with assurance, providing a service with security, and providing a service where you have to ensure data security is critical, and which is where there are offerings which are required. There are strategies which are required to change to adapt to these times, and hence this particular discussion. So would you still want us to allow us a couple of minutes, because as per the schedule that we published, if it is okay with all of you, can we wait for another couple of minutes for the rest of the people to join? I see that there are already a handsome number of people who are already onboarded. Meanwhile, Rajesh, would you like to at least start on with the introduction? Thank you,
sure.
sir.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Rajesh Itagi. I drive the pre-sales functions for India and SAARC region across the select set of enterprise accounts and the commercial space. I'm also responsible for the cloud business for NetApp India. I also have my colleagues, Kapil Karanwal. Kapil is the channel development manager. He focuses on the north and east part of India. I also have a cloud specialist, cloud architect Amit Mugarai with me on this call. So if I falter somewhere, or if you want to have some deep dive technical queries, Amit is going to help us out in this. Anything related to the engagement model, Kapil will support us. And overall, from the engagement model, you as customers, the entire SISL team is here to provide you all the necessary support and guidance. Welcome all of you to this webinar. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. Welcome, Kapil. So Kapil Kanwal has been instrumental in arranging for all of these engagements. So Kapil, would you like to have a couple of words?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, SISL Tech Jockey team for making this possible. So it was because of your efforts, and I believe we will be able to do justice to what we came here for our customers, for all the people who have joined in. So and it is now prime time for us to deliver what we are here for. So with this, I give it to Vijay and Rajesh to take it forward from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kapil. So guys, may I request to confirm if my screen is visible to all?
Yes, it is. It is.
Thank you. So with this, can we start? First of all, as a partner, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to introduce us as an SI, us as a company. Even before that, the way this slide has been arranged, the first thing that I'm supposed to summarize is the key takeaways that we can have from this session. And this is what we would want to iterate time and again during the course of conversation that we have for the time duration that we have with us. So one is that, as I said, because of COVID-19 and because of changed business dynamics, there is an ask to adapt business model, to adapt to deliver IT as a service to your respective consumer, which are primarily internal, so that business can continue functioning from wherever we are. Now, ideally, whenever we say IT and whenever we are supposed to deliver an IT service, we should be able to deliver from anywhere, from any device, from any platform. So this is how a simplified version and iteration would look or a sound like. But practically, it's a little tricky to achieve than it sounds. So when we talk of how to support remote workers effectively, now when we say effectively, one is that there should be assurance of service so that they can work. They should have all the resources available, which are primarily in-house resources, so that they can work. Now, in order for them to gain access, reliability of service becomes paramount, and data security goes without saying, because that is one of the most tricky question to answer, and especially if the work environment is distributed. Had everybody been in been in an office, it would have been simple to create funnel points so that you can have control over flow of information, over flow of data, over providing services, over providing priorities to different kind of IT services. But as soon as the environment becomes distributed for both, for a person, so if you don't have people sitting in an office and people are sitting out of different places, then for them to gain access to internal infrastructure so that they can work and then effectively transmit their work to deliver business objectives. Now, earlier, there was a data center in-house. There were people sitting in an office. So essentially, all of it was LAN network. There was segregation amongst LAN, local area network, on how do you access information available within your office in a server in your office. But with time and with demand, as this as this distribution started to happen now, if someone has to work and he's consuming internal IT resources, then he's probably getting mails either from on-premises, which are not even essentially in their own data center. There could be something like SaaS-based service like O365 or Google Suite. Then they have internal applications. Those internal applications can be ranging from ERP to CRM, ranging from within their data center to co-hosting model to probably hosted on public cloud. They may have certain SaaS-based HRMS. People have started in using SaaS-based applications for HRMS purposes only. For all of this to happen, there is always an ask for an end user computing environment, an effective end user computing environment and machine. So we can only ensure a service if we can ensure the availability of resources that started with a computer, that started with an endpoint. Now, had it been an office environment, it would have been simple to provide them with an assured performance device that could be a desktop or a laptop. If we want to allow access for everyone to work from the confinement of their own spaces, from their own individual devices at times, then how do we ensure the availability of resources? Because all of us have come to realize it all starts with your own computer. If it is working, you're probably able to perform tasks. How do you do that? Then the second most paramount is, as soon as you make a service available, how do you ensure that the service is only, or the data is behaving only in a manner as you would want, as a corporate organization, you would want it to behave. If it's supposed to be protected, if its access to the data is supposed to be restrictive, then how do we ensure if there is a data which is distributed as in terms of sources maybe coming from some SaaS-based platform, even for my internal environment, maybe coming from my own internal data center, maybe coming from co-hosted environment, maybe coming from a public application hosted on a hybrid model. So let us complex the scenarios as much as possible, because this is how the business setup have evolved. How do you ensure that only right people get right access at right time also? For example, time becomes a very important factor in the equation. you would want to have a certain person to access to certain data only for a specific time. How do you control that? So a very rather effective answer to all of this is ensuring an end user computing and virtual desktop environment, and providing that virtual desktop environment to your end users, so that you can make your end user of resources. You can ensure within the confinement of your administrative boundaries, you can ensure that the data can only be behaved and restricted as per organization's controls. So even if an individual is allowed to access a certain information or a certain data, which is there in my data center, which is there in our organization's data center, and which is the responsibility of an IT administrator starting from a CIO, then an end user working from his own machine will have restricted access. So with all of these necessary points, end user computing and virtual desktop environment availability becomes paramount. It makes financial sense also. In recent past, we used to pitch opportunities like VDI to organizations where there was a certain number in place. For example, if an end user had probably 100 internal users for which they want to for which they would want to uh, effectively build this environment, then we would have pitched instead of buying machines, why don't you provision VDI? Nowadays the demand has changed. Nowadays, with the advent of technologies, provisioning of services has become far more scalable and flexible, and the ease of deployment and provisioning of services is where NetApp will come into picture. So with all of this pretext, let me share the few key takeaways, which is how to support remote workers effectively, how to ensure application access and data protection, how can business stay in control and be proactive? Proactivity becomes the very big point here. And how can NetApp help with all of this end user and end user computing and VDI applications? This is what we would want to take away from this particular webinar. And with this, please allow me to introduce SISL. This SISL as an SI was effectively started off in 2012. So this is the 8th year running. We have been leading system integrator in India, fastest growing SI in India for that matter, because when we started, we've recently, the last year when we closed our books, it was close to 500 CR. So this is the journey that we've had. We started off from zero, evolved in 8 years to about 500 CR of business. There are a lot of, we take pride in introducing ourselves as a complete SI. So we have helped deliver a lot of projects. For example, there is a statistical number which says that we have delivered about 4,500 successful project developments. Now, we've catered to 6,300 customers globally. Now, with this, what we want to say is that as an SI, we started off with the infrastructure domain, where we would cater to our end customers with the requirements of infrastructure like network, storage, compute, then applications. So anything which was required to enable a business, so that with respect to infrastructure wise, so that they can perform. This is where we started off. We have with time matured our IoT analytics and AI based solution offerings also to our customers. There are various other things we all have in parallel. We have built up a full-fledged digital, or rather, I should say, e-commerce platform to do business of B2B business for ID. So this is a bit about how we have evolved, and these numbers that we see are just a reflection of reflection in saying that we have matured in this business since last 8 years, and we've had done sizable amount of business, 6,300 customers successfully catered globally. Not only do we have presence in India, but we have a couple of working offices in UK, and then US, and then Singapore. We have already completed 4,500 successful business projects development, which includes infrastructure, which includes software, which includes IoT and analytics, AI-based projects also. 4,300 employees. Now, with this 4,300 employee database, employee base that we have, not only do we have all these 4,300 employees working out of SISL offices, but we have various offices where our employees are working in a specific skill set out of our respective end customers' offices. This is where we say, I gave you a couple of names. So we have 18 offices with global presence. Now, with this, is it okay, Rajesh, if you can take over? Because Rajesh is leading this from NetApp's hand. Rajesh leads enterprise and cloud business. He's a pre-sales manager there.
Okay, good morning all. Thank you for joining this webinar. I don't think we should get into details of why VDI, because all of us understand the requirement of VDI. While VDI, or the virtual desktop infrastructure requirement, started many, many years back. But in fact, the VDI transformation from the regular desktops in the year like 2013-14 was more to look at how do we control the cost? How do I reduce the number of desktops and then give them dumb terminals, allow them to access from a central location? So the primary requirement at that point of time was cost. Second is how do we improve the operational efficiencies in terms of having a common patches and then upgrades, adding new applications and controls. The VDI requirement was primarily with regard to cost efficiencies and then bit of operational efficiencies. In fact, I remember many of the customers were giving us a specific number that, per desktop, I need to achieve a specific amount of cost to implement VDI. However, in fact, many of these projects did not take off in a large way. There were, 10-20% of the overall employee strength where the VDI was rolled out in most of the organizations. And also that, when we talk about disasters, we were in fact prepared, most of the organizations. And even if you look at the business continuity planning, the disaster recovery planning, we were always focused on probably infrastructure failure, data center failure, or some sort of a natural disaster, or in fact a man-made disaster like that could be riots and fire and so on and so forth, for which we prepared our business continuance. And how did we do that? Our business continuance was primarily focused on providing a disaster recovery site at an alternate site, having employees logging into that alternate site, having applications at either a near DR site, at a DR site. So we were more focused on such things rather than looking at what we are facing today. The COVID situation actually has taught us so many things which we had never planned, never expected that it is going to happen like this. In this environment now, how do we actually address this requirement? How do we manage the situations in this environment? So some of the things which we have worked on is making employees much more productive. While the applications are running in our data centers, it's just that employees are unable to come to the office or access the data centers directly. And that is where we started looking at how do we manage working from home concept. In fact, some numbers here which says that about 99% of the employees were interested in working from home. However, in fact, there was a little bit of resistance from organizations allowing them to do so. But due to COVID now, in fact, you have more than 74% of the CFOs who want employees to work from home to reduce the cost. And what would be the reduction of cost? While this is a global number, I'm sure you accept the fact that there is a large percentage which we definitely will be able to save even from an India standpoint. Now, when we talk about elastic and remote workforces, there are three categories of users which we see who needs to access the backend infrastructure or the application stack. It could be regular kiosk-based users or task-based users who do very, very basic mundane jobs, and they don't need high performance, large amount of capacity of your compute and storage. Then we have the medium users who really want to have access to more number of applications, and they also need to have they are called the knowledge workers. The third one is the power users who are really into design. Like it could be oil and gas industry where people are involved in doing the analysis on the raw data that they get from the explorations. Or it could be media industry where people are involved in sort of a design or animations, so on and so forth. Or it could look at a high-tech engineering organizations where people are involved in doing designs, automobile industries, manufacturing industries. So these are the different categories of people who are working in different organizations which we see. While we looked at VDI as a solution that would help us in addressing most of these challenges, what we realized is the VDI was more like a generic solution for allowing users to work remotely. But this generic solution had a lot of challenges. In fact, consistency was absolutely difficult to achieve, and it siloed different application stacks. So you are not able to get that committed performance and the response times for each of these specific set of performance hungry applications and those critical applications that are relevant for the business. The costs were not, while it started as a cost containment, the costs were, not very convincing for organizations to adopt these. Hence, in fact, a VDI along with the end user computing is a new way of looking at allowing, providing a digital experience, allowing much richer and better user experience for organizations to their employees. With the end user computing, we are not looking at just providing the VDI part. We are also looking at how do I segregate different types of these users, and how do we provide that consistent user experience, satisfying user experience to each of the users in the organizations. It is important for us to provide that consistent experience to the users to ensure that their productivity is never compromised. We need to look at how do we scale, how do we onboard new applications, how do we ensure that the patches, bug fixes, new releases of the applications are taken care of with minimum or no impact to the users as they work. So elasticity, flexibility are the key. We should be able to scale both in terms of the applications rollout and also in terms of the number of users who are going to get onboarded into this platform. And most importantly, it should always be a simple management interface for all the IT folks who deploy, administer, monitor, and manage this particular infrastructure. So with this, in fact, we also need to consider data security, which is the prime focus. In fact, I saw one of the questions here on the chat that, if we allow users to log in from their laptops. In fact, many organizations, when the COVID started, they had no choice but to allow their users, to log in with their personal laptops, personal desktops. So this can be a serious compromise of security when we start. So the end user computing or the VDI infrastructure should actually focus on providing data security as well as the seamless user experience. I will talk about the security part a little later as we move on. Now, what is that we are providing here? In fact, many organizations, many customers whom we talk to still consider NetApp to be a storage player. And specifically within storage, we also see customers asking us that, we are basically a file services organization. This was true till 8 years back. But beyond that, we have grown leaps and bounds from a file services organization. We provide a complete stack of data management solutions to customers. One is we have developed, we have innovated a lot of products and solutions ourselves. We also have acquired quite a few very specific, absolutely relevant organizations to our portfolio. We have acquired them to enhance the portfolio. Secondly, we also have partnered with a large number of other organizations, be it on the server platform. We work very closely with Cisco, we work with Fujitsu, we work with Lenovo. And on the hypervisor platforms, on the application stacks, we work with Red Hat, VMware, Citrix. And you'll also see in this set of slides that we also talk about GPUs. GPUs help us boost the performance specifically for these knowledge and the power users. We work with NVIDIA, who is the world leader in the GPU-based solutions. So these are some of the alliances, partnerships, and the acquisitions that we have made to provide a complete data management solutions to customers. One of the products that we talk about, which we developed, is called the hybrid cloud infrastructure. This is a stack that we provide, which has got compute, connectivity, and storage, which gives you a single stack. So you will see it as a complete platform that is available to you to consume. This is completely designed, developed by NetApp. And this is one of the solutions that we want to propose to customers when you want to consider the VDI or the end user computing environment. I'm sure you'd have heard of other organizations who do provide the HCI-based solutions. But the uniqueness that we provide with NetApp on the HCI platform is in terms of the quality of service, which is the biggest and the most important factor that you need to consider when you have a shared environment, either a platform that provides multiple applications on a single storage platform, or when you're talking about a VDI environment where you have thousands of users logging into your environment. So it's extremely critical for you to consider this quality of service. Second one is in terms of scalability. You should be able to scale any of your resources as and when required, independent of the other resources. You should be able to consume these resources independently. So the independent scale is the second factor that we. The third one is in terms of predictable performance. So the typical challenge that we see when we get into the shared application environment is in terms of providing consistent performance. Here we are talking about a mix of users, whether it is power users, knowledge workers, or the task users being hosted on the same platform of VDI. When you have this, you should ensure that the power user gets the power that he requires, the amount of performance he or she intends to consume to perform those specific tasks that are assigned to them. You should also ensure on the other extreme that a task worker who is a very, very light user in a VDI environment should also get that minimum performance requirement. So that is possible only when you have that granular control of performance that can be assigned across each of these volumes, each of these resources within the complete VDI platform. And that's what we can do using NetApp HCI solution. The other important factor when you're talking about VDI is how do I manage the whole environment? It should be simple, seamless, and integrated. It should be able to integrate into your existing orchestration layer or the management platform. These are the key factors which we considered when we came up with the HCI platform, and we have tested across all the the VDI solutions that are available in the market today to provide this comprehensive solution to you. Power users, no problem from us because we have these NVIDIA GPU options which will boost the performance multifold as compared to a regular Intel-based microprocessor. Now, just to give you some examples of what are the products that we can actually map here from our HCI stack. When we talk about task workers or the kiosk workers, kiosk, I'm sure you understand that it is a specific task that can be assigned on the same shared a computer or a virtual environment, a specific task that can be assigned which can be performed by the user in this environment. So we have a compute platform without any GPUs. The regular Intel-based processors are sufficient for you to cater to the task workers. Next, when we talk about the knowledge workers, you have the NVIDIA M10 as the graphics accelerator card that you can insert. You see a large amount of transformation and migration of the environment from the existing Windows environment to the Windows 10 environment. Windows 10 environment is extremely performance hungry, as well as it requires a lot of graphics usage. It requires graphics resources, and hence it is important for us to consider the NVIDIA graphics cards to be inserted as part of this solution. When you have this very high intensive compute experience which is required for the power users, then we have a different solution, which is with the T4 of NVIDIA, T4 cards of NVIDIA as part of the solution that we provide. Now, this is just to give you an example how traditionally we have been deploying applications in our organizations, whether it is database, email, VDI, CRM. So each one has been treated in its own silo, and we have been deploying these, rolling out these to production, and then we have been managing them as siloed application stack. Due to this, in fact, it is not a one size fit all. Then you need to have a custom made designs for each of these applications. Then when we look at the NetApp HCI, we can consolidate because of the rich data management features and the data provisioning features that I did explain in terms of quality of service, predictable performance, guaranteed IOPS that we talk about, ease of management, integration, and resiliency. These are the factors which will allow you to consolidate disparate applications. Like, one end you have a database application, you have an email, and you also have a VDI. So all these disparate applications can be put on a single compute and storage platform, the infrastructure platform, which is a NetApp HCI. I did explain to you about 3 factors of quality of service, performance, and monitoring and management functions. What I missed out is the resiliency. Resiliency is extremely important when you are hosting large number of users on a single platform. Suppose if you have thousands of users on this VDI platform, which is hosted on a particular infrastructure, what if something fails? Disk failures are given. In fact, disks are going to fail. You absolutely have no control on the disk failures. How do you address that? How do you address any other component failures? The way we manage failures, in fact, because of the resiliency that we have built into the storage, which was called the SolidFire storage. By the way, this came to us through an acquisition. SolidFire is the storage which is predominantly meant for high availability and high performance environments. The way SolidFire storage is designed in our HCI stack is that if there is a disk failure across any of the nodes, the system will recover in under 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, you'll be back to business. Doesn't mean that you cannot access the application stack or you cannot access the storage infrastructure for 10 minutes. You will continue to access. The failures, the system will recover from that failure seamlessly without any intervention, without any disruption to your service in under 10 minutes. The whole SolidFire architecture is based on multiple nodes. We call it as a node-based shared nothing architecture, which is based on double helix. We create 2 copies of data that we store here. Due to this, in case if the entire node fails, we can recover it in under 1 hour. While there is no disruption to any of the services that you're performing, we also recover and continue to cater without any disruption to you with this HCI stack. Now let's look at how HCI solution is built into a data center. While I gave you different examples that, for the typical task workers, we can provision a solution without GPUs. For knowledge workers, little bit of, the GPU cards. And if you're predominantly looking at a power user, then in fact, we were talking about the T4, cards that are deployed in our HCI stack. They are not silos. I can actually have a combination of all these compute nodes in a single cluster. I can have systems with just Intel-based processors. I can have the compute nodes which are GPU-based, all part of the same cluster. Depending on the workload, we can assign these GPUs, nodes, and the resources for specific set of users. You don't have to manually wonder of how do I do this? How do I provision to my power users? We can do that. That is the biggest advantage, that we do it seamlessly without overheads or without any too much of a headache for the administrators to manage this. The other important factor here is how much does it cost me to start with? What is the minimum number of nodes I need to put in place for me to start? You can start really small. You can start as low as 2 compute and 2 storage nodes, and then you can all the way scale up to large number of 64 compute and the storage nodes. You can have a combination of all this, and in a single cluster, you can have more than 100 storage and compute nodes put together. As we see here, you can also look at, not just only the HCI stack, we can also interop with the other storage products of NetApp. For instance, in fact, diving a little deeper into how a VDI environment actually gets architected. In a VDI solution requirement, you typically have 2 sets. I mean, forget the user profiles. Now, if I have to drill down and see how do I provision, it is basically, the boot storm. Boot storm is where, in fact, you have your operating system, the application binaries, and all the relevant common resources that are required for your users to function. Then there is a data store. All the users need to store their data. So these are 2 predominant types of storage environments that you see in a VDI infra. Bootstorm is the one which requires ultra high performance, because when you start your shift, or when all the users come into the office early in the morning, when they switch on their terminals, large number of users may start the systems at the same time. So the amount of requests that get into from each of these terminals or from the user terminals into the backend VDI infrastructure is huge. You need extremely high performance to cater to this. In fact, you need to have all these images being deployed onto the terminals of the users almost at the same time. While we talk about the user base of about 1,000 in a large environment or a medium environment, I would say about 60% of the users may switch on their systems at the same time. So the concurrent user base is like 60% for you. Sorry, just give me a second here. I just lost control. Just give me a second. Are you able to see my screen, Vijay? Hello.
Oh, yes, Rajesh, we are able to view your screen.
I
Please
just saw
kindly
it.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just saw a request for
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
control.
that was by mistake.
Okay, sure. I'm sorry about it.
No
Guys.
issues.
So when you need this high performance, about 60% of the users coming into accessing the backend media infrastructure, you need to have that high performance backend storage to cater to all these requirements. So that is one type. The second set of the storage requirements is where the users want to store their data. It could be in a media environment. Once they finish the animation part, they want to store their files. In a regular environment, the finished files or any of the tasks which are assigned to the users, they need to store. So the user scratch area or the user file data, which may not require very high performance. So if you want to optimize the overall investment, in fact, what we could also do is, we can have a combination of all flash storage systems, uh, which is the SolidFire in our case, which can be catering to your Bootstorm. A small capacity, but extremely high performance, which can cater to your Bootstorm. The second part can be a regular storage, which is our ONTAP based or an ECD storage that can be connected or iSCSI onto the same cluster of HCI. So that can scale up as and when you require in terms of capacity, in terms of performance. So a combination of multiple resources can be assigned to create this cluster to address your VDI requirements here. I also, in fact, let me just switch back here. I also had seen a question which said like, how do I protect my data? How do I protect my data when I have the VDI infrastructure? So that's extremely important. Thanks for that question, in fact. So there are multiple different ways. One is you backup within the same environment using large number of backup tools, making it much more complex for you to manage the whole environment. The second one is, in fact, using our native tools, which are provided as part of the whole HCI stack. You can also replicate the data to an alternate site. And that alternate site need not be your own data center. You can actually replicate your instances into the cloud. In fact, it could be any of the hyperscalers like the Amazon, Azure, or Google. You can replicate the data there. Should there be a problem in your primary site, you can actually spawn the instances of your VDI infrastructure in the cloud and start your operations there. You can also do your backup. While in fact we provide some of the native tools, we also work very closely with our alliance partners like the Commvault, Veeam, and others who can provide you a backup solution. So that way you can protect your data. The other question which had come up was on the security. So the biggest advantage of providing a VDI infrastructure is your front-end system need not be very well protected. But since you are actually connecting or a secured network into the VDI infrastructure of the organization, all your controls starting with authentication and authorization. In terms of type of access, in terms of data flow across each of these environments can all be controlled. How do I do my authentication? Once I log in into the VDI infrastructure, with your AD, the user can get authenticated to get into your network. Second is the authorization. What is the user authorized to access? Which are the applications? What is the data type? What data can the user access? That can be controlled with your authorization. You also have the firewalls, which will control specific ports to ensure that there is no spam that comes in. There is no unauthorized access via different ports that can come into your network. VDI also offers you another benefit in terms of controlling your bandwidth. Since the user is not processing any data on the edge device, the edge device could be the laptop or a desktop using which the user is logging in from home or a remote location. The user actually is using this just as a conduit to connect into your network. And the actual processing happens on the VDI infrastructure. So the amount of bandwidth that you require reduces drastically in a VDI environment rather than doing a traditional approach of having the users do the processing on their own edge devices. Processing on the edge device also has the concern of security, data security, as well as the other spams and eavesdropping and many other security related challenges. All that can be controlled in this VDI environment. So this slide actually talks about just one example of how we integrate our solution stacks with VMware. We are not restricted only to VMware. We work with the other VDI providers also, like the Citrix and other solutions. This is just to depict like the different solution stacks, the different components that can actually get into your VDI when it is a very simple VDI environment with a vSphere and the VMware hypervisor with the orchestration and the management tool, which is the Horizon, and all the way to build a private cloud on VMware stack. Having said this, like these are some of the key benefits that you can find, which I have covered earlier with the NetApp HCI solution. You can tailor make what you require. Start small, grow to whatever capacity configurations that you would require. Modify depending on the business needs. The other interesting factor that I'm sure you're aware of, but we would like to emphasize the fact is that the same end user compute platform can be utilized for different purposes. For example, like, if it is a banking environment, in fact, you can do all the transactions, the processing during the daytime while the users log in and then perform their tasks. End of the day, when the users log off, the same infrastructure can be used for doing the reporting function, reconciliations, and many other functions that are relevant from a banking infrastructure. If you're looking at from a media, as an example, media industry, all the users can log in and then do their designs, they can do their storyboards, everything during the daytime. And all these frames that are created by the users during the daytime, we can actually use the same VDI infrastructure to do the rendering process in the night. So you are actually using the same infrastructure for multiple purposes here. That's another great benefit that you can see on a VDI based on NetApp HCI. Because you have the compute power that is available to you, you have the storage capacity that is available to you, and use it to your benefit. So, as I said, we can have this VDI infrastructure built both on-premise as well as in the cloud. I'll elaborate this a little more when I talk about the Azure platform that we have provided. And this service actually that is provided to the end users will be seamless. This gives them more like a cloud experience as such. We also have a software called the Global File Cache, which allows you to provide the governance, compliance, and control of the data flow where it happens. It allows you to share. It allows you to provide high performance using the caching functionality. All that is actually integrated as part of the solution. And it is not like on day one, you can plug and play each of these components as and when you require. Independent scale, I have repeated it multiple times, that gives you the best return on investment. You start small, grow, depending on what you require. So the independent scale, when we talk about the HCI environment, we were the first ones to introduce. When I say independent scale, in a HCI stack, people typically confuse it to be an integrated server storage combination in a single node. That is not HCI. That is the definition that is given by one of the vendors who introduced HCI. But HCI should give you that flexibility to scale, providing all the features, integration that is required to provide a common platform without any headaches of the administrator looking at each of these components in silo, like a compute, connectivity, and storage. Here, the HCI stack should give a common platform to the administrators to deploy and manage. Secondly, in fact, importantly, what you need to also know is the scale. If you require more horsepower, if you require more compute power, you should be able to scale only the compute. If you need more data storage capacity, you should be able to scale only that. So the independent scale of each of those resources is one of the key factors that we provide as part of our HCI stack. And I'm sure you understand and acknowledge the fact that there are times when you may want to deploy a new application which requires huge amount of compute power. In those instances, rather than also adding storage, which may not be relevant to you, with the HCI stack of NetApp, you can just add only the compute power. And again, in compute power, I said, you have the flexibility to add. Sorry, I hear some noise. Yeah, thank you. You have the flexibility to add the generic compute nodes, which are based on Intel processors, or you can also add the GPU-based nodes, which will allow you to boost that performance multifold. While there are 5 different parameters, I want to touch upon the proactive intelligence that is available to you at your fingertips. Typically, what you do as an administrator of the environment, you need to log into each of these resources, whether it is compute, whether it is storage, connectivity, and you need to monitor them on a regular, on a constant basis to ensure that they are functioning. You want to look at their health, you want to look at their performance. You also want to look at if there is any failure. But you need to log into each of these items, each of these storage units, for example, to monitor this. What if you have multiple sites? In fact, some of these IT/ITeS, global IT/ITeS organizations who are from India, don't believe they have about 30 to 40 data centers globally. And they would have hundreds of storage systems, they would have hundreds of compute instances. If they have to manage storage, the storage administrator has to manage all the storage systems that are deployed across the globe. It becomes extremely difficult if they have to monitor each and every resource, each and every system independently. In our case, you don't have to do that. There is a simple cloud-based monitoring and management software that we provide, which is called ActiveIQ. ActiveIQ is a software that we have deployed in the backend, which will collect the statistics of every storage unit that we have deployed globally. It is a central repository of the metadata of every storage system that we have provided. Now, you as a user, you as a customer, you can actually have access to the ActiveIQ database of NetApp, but we will provide you secured access to only the systems that you have deployed in your environment. You will have no access to other customers' storage units. You will have visibility only to your environment. You can access this from any device. It is anytime, anywhere, any device. That's a solution that we provide using ActiveIQ. As simple as like you can install this app of ActiveIQ on your mobile phones. You don't have to be in your office. You don't have to be logged into your data center or any other resource. You will get constant information about the health of your system, the performance of the system. We also give you recommendations of upgrades, a firmware on the hard disk, the firmware on the SSD drive, the patches that you need to install on the controllers, all that you get as proactive alert so that you can reduce your failures in your environment by almost like 80%. That is the value of ActiveIQ. Should there be a situation where you already have a orchestration or a management platform available in your environment, provided by some of the vendors or it is in-house developed, we will plug ActiveIQ into that environment so that you get on a single dashboard, you get all the data about the health of our systems. The management tools that we have in terms of configuration and management of each of these storage units have the APIs. Those APIs can be integrated with your existing management platform. If you want to use a existing one, you can actually integrate this and then start monitoring in fact NetApp components, NetApp storage systems from there. Or else, in fact, ActiveIQ is a wonderful tool which each one of us have actually, each one of us can install it on our mobile phones to monitor the environment. This is extremely important in terms of the I/O benchmark because you want to know what is the performance that you're going to get out of the HCI infrastructure that you're going to deploy for your VDI environment. And we have an endorsement from the evaluator group who says, there are specific numbers that have been put here, 1440 IO mark. And it also says you can get this performance at a specific price level. And it also says for that particular platform, in this case, let me give an example that, 3,200 VDI desktops have been deployed and there is a benchmark. And it also tells you what is the price per desktop. So finally, if the CFO is looking at how much are we going to spend by transforming from the existing desktop and laptop environment into a VDI infrastructure, what is my cost? And this is a ballpark figure that you can consider when you're trying to deploy a VDI infrastructure. And this is not by NetApp. This is an independent organization which has done this benchmark and then who has done the complete evaluation and they published this report. Okay, let me switch gears to our latest acquisition called the CloudJumper. In a VDI, in fact, you have multiple components. You have the hardware infrastructure, then you have the virtualization stack and the hypervisor stack. And you also require an orchestration engine, which will actually do the provisioning and management of the VDI infrastructure. So you could have the Xenapps from Citrix, you could have Horizon, you have seen all this. But they are very specific to their own environments. For example, Xenapps is for Citrix, you have Horizon for VMware, so on and so forth. What if you have different environments in your organization? What if you have to deploy the solution in the cloud? In the cloud also you have tools and solutions available, whether it is Google, whether it is Microsoft Azure or Amazon. The advantage that we bring into the table using this CloudJumper stack is that in multiple environments of your VDI, you can have a common orchestration platform which can provide the deployment of VDI infrastructures across multiple environments, multiple locations, and multiple instances which are hosted across on-prem hosted environment, or it could be in the cloud. So in case of Microsoft, in fact, we work very closely with them to provide two types of services. One is a simple virtual desktop service, which is on the Azure platform, which will allow you to do the provisioning and management. While in fact, we provide this orchestration layer, you can actually do the complete management. You are responsible for the upkeep of the infrastructure, the software components, and the whole service as such. On the other side, in fact, we can also provide it as a managed service, where we are responsible for the entire stack. You have to just tell us the number of users that you need to deploy on this infrastructure, and then we will provision, we will monitor, we will manage. your headaches are reduced or it's almost nullified. We will take care of the entire environment. So that is the virtual desktop managed service that we provide specifically in Microsoft Azure uh, stack. So the Cloud Jumper helps you in deployment automation because when you're talking about thousands of users being deployed, onboarded on the VDI platform, you can't be doing all these tasks manually. It has to be simplified. The whole deployment cycle has to be automated as much as possible, including the user management. You may have a large number of applications that are going to be deployed on the VDI stack for access by the users. So integration of each of these components and also the management, including from an infrastructure perspective, how do I scale my resources? They are the key. In fact, all these functions are provided by our orchestration stack, which is the Cloud Jumper. And you can also have deployments on-prem. It is not restricted only to the cloud. You can also have the on-prem deployments as well as in the cloud. So a combination of this hybrid cloud environments is what we support with this platform. Having said that, this is another solution that we provide to Azure. And interestingly, while this is a NetApp software that is hosted in Azure data centers, this whole software is actually deployed, managed, and supported by Microsoft as a as their product. So that is the endorsement that we get from the hyperscalers. It is not just that the solutions that we provide directly to customers. It is also it's also that we have all the three hyperscalers who have endorsed NetApp software, which is the storage operating system, as part of their stack. While they themselves have the block storage, they had across the board. In fact, all the three hyperscalers did have challenges in terms of providing a comprehensive file services to their customers. When I say file services, it is file sharing on Windows and the Unix platforms. In fact, that's the reason they have embraced NetApp storage operating system, which can be deployed on top of the block storage that is available in these hyperscalers. Whether it is the Elastic Block Storage in case of AWS or the Azure disks in case of Microsoft Azure, we can deploy the software on top of that block devices and convert that particular block storage that you can see, the raw storage, into a unified storage, which can provide you block as well as file services natively. And only from a file services perspective, NetApp actually calls this, they have named this product as Azure NetApp Files, ANF. ANF actually provides you enterprise-grade shared storage in Azure, which is powered by NetApp. Now, you also have solutions of O365 that is available in Azure. I'm sure many of the organizations have embraced O365, including, in fact, NetApp, we use O365 for our messaging, collaboration, and all these tools. How are we relevant in this environment? We provide SaaS backup, software as a service, is a solution that we provide, protecting your O365 data and the mailboxes. While Microsoft says that the data is protected in an alternate region or an availability zone, recovery of a single mailbox, recovery of a single file that you have stored in Azure is not easy. It's very, very complex, time consuming. And most importantly, there is no guarantee of recovery of this data. Microsoft does not guarantee you recovery of this data, but we can provide it. We actually have created the software stack, which gets plugged into the O365, allowing you to backup and do a granular recovery For example, if you have about 1,000 mailboxes, you want to recover only about 4 mailboxes that are relevant, where there is a corruption, failure, whatever reasons. You can recover only those 4 mailboxes, which is not possible in case of O365 native service. So that's a value prop that we provide. You can also do a cloud-based backup. Suppose if you have hosted your data, your file services environment in Azure, we provide the backup service to that. We also provide this global file cache, which I explained to you earlier. You could have remote users where, in fact, I just do a caching rather than installing a high-end engineered storage system. We can install a small unit there and then do the file caching. File caching enables the data to be shared from your primary data center or the cloud instance where you're hosted your data, production data, that can be cached into the remote locations. It could be a remote office. It could be from this e-tailer perspective, like a Flipkart or Amazon. It could be the fulfillment centers or the godowns, warehouses where they have their inventory stocked. If they want to monitor, track what is available, this is the way it can be used using the global file cache of NetApp. This is a simple piece of software that is available to customers. Cloud Sync is a software that allows you to actually migrate or replicate your on-prem or from some other cloud, that data into another cloud. In this case, we are talking about Azure. You can copy your data, you can migrate your data from on-prem. Why do you need this? In case if you are planning to migrate from on-premise into a cloud environment, you could use this tool. Compliance will allow you to look at the data. When you are hosted in the cloud, you want to look at what type of data that is stored by your users. The personal files, videos, JPGs, and whatever, in fact, whether it is personal, this compliance tool will help you categorize the personal and business resources that are being consumed by the users. Now, virtual desktop as a service, which I talked about in conjunction with our Cloud Jumper software, we can actually host the entire VDI infrastructure in the cloud, and the backend storage will be powered by ANF, which is the Azure NetApp files. So all this stack we provide in the hyperscaler cloud environments. Added to this, in case if you want to see how each of these resources are consumed, in terms of utilization, you may spawn a large instance of virtual machines in the cloud. But do you know how many of these virtual machines are really being used in production or really being used by the users? Very, very low without using specific tools. In fact, Cloud Insights will give you a report of how many systems are actually utilized, what is the utilization percentage, and also you can look at how many systems have been powered off or how many systems have not been utilized for a period of time. You can get all this information using Cloud Insights. While this is on the virtualization stack, we can also track, monitor, and manage the storage resources. And this is not restricted to one data center or one hyperscaler. You can actually have a single platform that can provide you reports across on-premise, on a hosted environment, or any of the hyperscalers, multiple hyperscalers, a single platform that provides you reporting, monitoring, and a complete infrastructure analytics of your whole stack. So this is a complete view of what we can provide apart from the VDI. These are the solutions that we provide specifically in Microsoft Cloud. Now, in fact, if you look at why it is relevant for you to look into cloud environments, why should you actually work on migrating some of your workloads, specifically in the current scheme of things wherein COVID has impacted our lives to a large extent. migration actually, and actually migration not just into the cloud, and also, when you consider from a traditional infrastructure into a VDI, you can also look at the cloud-based VDI, which will enable you to reduce your infrastructure cost, reduce your risk, automation. We did discuss about this. It will also allow the solution, the platform that we provide will also help you, migrate from one cloud to the another, depending on, whether it is cost advantage that you're going to get, or in case you're going to get additional features, functionalities, application support in a different cloud, we can help you migrate across different clouds. And just to summarize, in fact, while you have heard about many other vendors who talk about VDI, in fact, we are the ones who have the largest number of the most complex VDI deployments globally. In fact, we are rated as #1 storage provider for the VDI environments. With that, in fact, I would like to come to an end to my session. Should there be any questions, I'll be happy to take. I will also ask my colleague Amit to be available for any questions that you may have.
So thank you, Rajesh. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. I have made note of a couple of queries that we received in the chat window. So if you'd allow me, let me take them one by one. So the first query that we received was any details on the bandwidth requirement and latency, as everyone doesn't have high speed internet access. So Vijay sir raised this one.
See, the bandwidth requirement, as I said, minimizes to a large extent in this case because you're actually not having any data flow. Your application data or your user data doesn't flow into your, the edge device, which is your laptop at home or a desktop at home. You are actually using your credentials to log into the VDI infrastructure in your office. And when we do that, the entire processing, the data flow happens only on that VDI infrastructure. So your bandwidth consumption is very, very minimal.
Thank you. We have Mr. Amit Mugrai. Amit sir, would you want to state a certain query?
Yeah, I agree with, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I agree with what Rajesh has said, and I would like to add one more point, like when we talk about the file. So for example, if you are accessing your VDI environment remotely, which means you are in your home right now, and assuming all the applications and the external data is available within a data center, bandwidth will not be a constraint. But you will have to do bandwidth calculations in a scenario where you have a co-location and you have hosted the VDI infrastructure there. However, from your remote office, now I'm not talking about home location, I'm talking about the remote office, you have certain files which you would like to be synced at a periodic frequency, or you would like the files to remain in your remote office only. So probably if the data is spread across multiple sites or multiple locations, then bandwidth will play a major role. But if you're just talking about accessing the VDI infrastructure hosted from a central location, then you can live with a typical, bandwidth.
So Vijay, it's a challenge for me also, Ankit this side.
Yeah,
So
Ankit,
this
what's
is
your question?
regarding the bandwidth, we have certain restrictions also, like if someone is allowed to work from home, like then there would be a bandwidth issue also, and there would be a data breach. Like if we are allowed to work person work from home, so it will be a compliance issue, like files are not ready on the VPN side. So it's a very difficult to handle this.
Yeah, probably from the compliance point of view, I do understand when you talk about specific industries that they have like data locality clauses. So I agree that will be, you can say, beyond a technical discussion. That's a business discussion. Are we going to rewrite the compliance standard? But let's assume not. Let's assume not. And again, as I said, considering we all are working in India, so even if you have 1 Mbps, I'm talking about internet bandwidth, that is still considered a luxury in India. And I'm talking about entire India, not just the metro cities where 1 Mbps can be available easily. So I think that is the minimum which you will require, because when you talk about accessing your data, you know, accessing the data remotely, you would also be using VPN, because obviously you will not be using plain internet. You will be using some sort of encryption, and probably VPN connection seems to be the obvious answer. So I'll say roundabout, if the employee does not have 1 Mbps at the end, like from home location, then there are other solutions as well. So if the bandwidth is in, let's say, few kbps, yes, we can still implement the solution. But then you're talking about those network based solutions which can help you in achieving that.
Yeah, but there are certain files and tools which has to be run in the backend, because if that file does not upload in the backend side, then the other developer or other software engineer will not able to work, because if the system fails to upload the file at the backend, so there will be an issue for the developer. Like for
So
me, there are several files for which has to be run in the backend within 1 hour. Okay,
I under
so if the file does not sync with in the cloud in the system within 1 hour, so it will be a challenge for me.
I understand. So probably what I could understand, the method which you are using, it you're trying to download the files on your local endpoint, and then you are maybe working on it, or performing the daily task. It's not just screen refresh and mouse clicks in this scenario. You're downloading the file on your laptop or desktop or whatever endpoint device you have. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, so in that case, yes, you definitely need bandwidth. As I said, it all depends upon how exactly the application is designed. If the application needs the file to be downloaded locally, yes, you will need high bandwidth. There is no workaround for that.
Yeah, there is
Amit,
no alternative also for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Amit, may I?
So can I just add on to this point, to what Amit was talking? It depends on what type of files you are referring to. In fact, if you are looking at collaboration of multiple files across multiple users and locations, we have a different solution with our partner called Peer Software. So we can provide this file sync and share. So which means that now between Amit, you and me, if we have to share a single file which needs to be shared between the three of us, now the file is available to each one of us to read. Now, suppose if you are making any modification on that file, then in fact, Amit and I will not be allowed. It will be locked for us. And only when you complete the modification or an update onto that particular file, we get the latest updated file. The advantage in this solution is, irrespective of the size of the file, suppose if you are modifying only a few kilobytes in this, only those will get updated to the other locations. Okay, like, Amit and I will get an update on that. So the bandwidth that way can be optimized. So this need not be a VDI solution, or it can be a combination with VDI. But do we have a software? Yes, we do have the software. You may want to just look at this site called PEER software.
Yeah, what is the site? Double PR.
No, PEER. In fact, I'll put it on the chat.
Okay.
You may want to look at this. In fact, we have quite a few installations. In fact, one of the largest installations we did was for ITC. In fact, I may not be able to, they are not a public reference, so I may not be able to give you any documents related to that. Across 27 sites, we have deployed the software. And believe me, there are hardly about 5 metros. The rest of them are tier 2, tier 3 towns, I would say, not even cities. We have deployed this. So we can talk about this separately. You can reach out to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rajesh. Ankit, Vijay Nehra here from SISL team. So, Rajesh has already mentioned PS software. Now,
Yeah.
even besides that, when it comes to file sharing, so not only do we have offerings besides NetApp, not only do we have offerings which can help you with extensive file sharing, but very elaborated control with respect to rights management.
Okay.
on the content that can be shared. So let me reach out to you so that we can have a separate discussion around that. This is with respect to file sharing, but there is one thing which you've mentioned. Downloading of a file would require a greater bandwidth. Yes, it would indeed. But
Yes.
whenever we are talking VDI, essentially, you would hardly find any use case where you'll have to download a file from a computer onto some individual machine. I'll tell you. Let me elaborate on that a bit. Say there is a laptop. If you carry your own laptop and you want to work remotely, and your office has provision for VDI, so there is an office laptop or office workstation on which your office desktop on which you're working. That office desktop will be there in the data center. So in
Okay.
case you would want to say either the file has to be refreshed through application server in the background, all of them are also in the data center. So there is no data coming out onto your personal machine. That is the entire usage of VDI, and which is where this VDI becomes, this helps us secure the data also. So there will be hardly, in fact, there will be no use case where you may have to download certain data from your official machine onto your personal machine. And if data has to travel from your official machine, either to your official machine, either from your internal servers or to some third party vendor or some external customer, then the bandwidth that shall be playing the role shall be the bandwidth which is connecting your data center where your VDI machine is set up, and the end user, wherever the end user is. For example, if you want to share certain file across to some customer or some vendor, and a vendor sitting in a different office, and the bandwidth which will come into play will be the bandwidth between your data center and probably the bandwidth between the vendor's data center. It has nothing to do with individual end user bandwidth. So the whole purpose of VDI is to mitigate this particular use case, and this is how VDI becomes a secure platform for corporate IDs. Does it help you understand things a little better?
Yes, yes, yeah, I got it right now. Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Ankit.
got it. Yeah.
Now, with this, I have a couple of more queries. Now, there is one from Gagan, and what he specifically wants to ask is how NetApp HCI has improved in flexibility and scale over the previous generations of HCI with fixed resources ratio, limiting you to 4 to 8 node configurations.
So let me start this and then I'll ask Amit to elaborate if required. So when we started, in fact, we always looked at enterprise-based customers. So we had a starting point of like 4 to 6 nodes, and then you can scale it up to like 100 nodes. But now, looking at the market conditions, specifically in markets like India, we have a starter kit where you can have 2 compute and 2 storage nodes. So our starting configuration for HCI is 4 nodes. We can start as small as 4 nodes and you can scale it up. Amit, you want to add on?
Yeah, right, Rajesh. So starting from 4 nodes till 164 nodes, that's the min and max for a single NetApp HCI cluster.
Thank you, Amit. Gagan, does that answer your query? See, when we say 4 nodes, again, the question is, oh, great. Thank you. So can we? There is a query from Jaspinder.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There is a query from Jaspinder where she would want to ask, how does NetApp gives us edge over its competitors like Cisco, Hyperflex, or Nutanix?
Amit?
So when we talk about our competitors, as I said, we are not limited and restricted to one hypervisor. We allow you not only to run multiple hypervisors such as Hyper-V, VMware, Red Hat Virtualization, KVM, Oracle VM to name a few. We also allow you to run bare metal operating systems such as Microsoft Windows and Red Hat Enterprise Linux on NetApp HCI. Furthermore, some of the USPs of our architecture, one which has already been emphasized on, is independent scale out compute and storage node architecture, which brings in a lot of benefits. Apart from that, our guaranteed quality of service, whether we are talking about a per node or per volume, That is something unique, which is must for any organization which is planning to run mission critical workloads on HCI. That is another USP I would like to focus on. Apart Apart from that, when we talk about HCI, we not only talk about the number of cores and the memory, we are selling a data fabric solution to a customer which truly integrates with all the three leading hyperscalers on planet Earth. So when we talk about HCI, we talk about a data fabric solution which allows you to build private cloud using hypervisor or a bare metal operating system of your choice, and it integrates with the public clouds of the world. That is how I would like to answer this question.
So adding on to what Amit said, so I'm sure, when you want to deploy VDI, it is not like, you're starting fresh in your organization. You already have some compute and storage infrastructures that are available in your environment. When you deploy VDI from any other vendor, it becomes a completely siloed infrastructure. But if you are, leveraging on the NetApp solution, what we could do is we could, have the existing storage. If you have in your environment, that also can be connected to the HCI cluster of NetApp, as long as you have ISKC protocol enabled on that storage. So it is not just only the solution that we are providing. We can also leverage on your existing infra so that your investments are protected. So as long as you have the life of that storage exists, we can connect it and then you can use it as a data store. Secondly, in fact, if you have servers, which require high performance, solid state based storage requirements, even those bare metal storage, bare metal servers can be connected to our HCI cluster. So the solid fire storage that we provide as part of HCI can also be provisioned to those bare metal servers. So this flexibility, nobody can give you. While this looks like, do I really have that environment? I mean, if you want to go back and retrospect in your existing environment, you will definitely have those resources which you want to extend your life. That is the benefit. The other one is like, quality of service, which I emphasized multiple times, which others cannot give you. We say like guaranteed performance. We underline the term as guaranteed. Depending on the workload, we say like the efficiencies and the performance that you can get. You can have a mix and match. You can have, in fact, I saw a question like, can we have MongoDB? Can I have Oracle? Can I have NoSQL, everything? Yes. All those environments, including your email application, all that can be hosted on this single HCI stack. So that's our value prop.
Thank you, Rajesh. In fact, Abhilash had a similar question. What are the steps that can be taken in order to take care of overall investment, specifically if new to market? So, Abhilash, does that answer your query a bit? Thank you. So, with this, couple of more queries. Ankit wanted to inquire how will scale compel the efficient ROI? So there was a query around scalability and how can scalability help better ROI?
Amit, you want to start?
So when we talk about scalability, as I said, the fundamental principle of our architecture is independent scale out and compute. As in when we scale, what exactly happens is that when we talk about the storage efficiency, it only gets better. So that will have an impact on the ROI. Another thing is when you are talking about the licensing, because ROI will also include the licensing cost. The storage nodes need not be licensed for hypervisor. In other words, let's say if you have 10 compute nodes or 50 storage nodes in a HCI cluster, you only need licenses for the 10 compute nodes. So that will have an impact on ROI.
Thank you, Amit. Now, there is something which Mukul asked. How complex would it be shift from a traditional approach to the NetApp architecture?
So when we talk about traditional approach could be running a physical server or running a virtualization platform on a physical server. So I would like to understand what is traditional approach, and I can, you know, tailor my answer according to the question.
Thank you, Amit. Mukul, would you want to, you may be able to unmute yourself. So would you want to elaborate on your question more, a little? Well, till the time.
Or if not, let me answer the question in both the scenario. One, the traditional approach is you're running physical hardware, you're running physical servers. It is not a virtualized environment at all. Our PS team can help in first, doing the P2V. P2V simply means your physical workload would be converted into a virtual workload and would run on HCI. That is one approach. And the second approach is if you're already running a virtual environment, or you're using a private cloud based on VMware or another hypervisor, we can migrate the virtual machines from platform A to the HCI platform using the choice of tools which are available with zero downtime. Again, as I said, the migration strategy has to be designed and defined on the basis of applications which are running.
Thank you, Amit. So Mukul, even for physical architecture, if you're talking about traditional 3-tier architecture where you have a server, storage, and then there is a SAN switch in between, and then the storage SAN storage, migration of an application, this is just the physical infrastructure. Then you may have various infrastructure softwares like hypervisors, platform. Then to host applications, there may be middleware application hosting platforms, and then the application architecture finally. So the migration overall will depend on answers or all of these factors or answers to all these questions, so that we can discuss, define, and hence this discussion becomes a bit subjective discussion. If you'd allow us to reach out to you, we can have a post-session chat around this, and we can help you with the timelines of migrations. As an SI, this is the domain where we operate, SISL as an organization operate, and we can definitely help you with these answers. Does that help share our perspective a bit, Mukul? Meanwhile, there was another query from Mr. Prakash Menon. He wanted to inquire how fast can BCP type activities be activated should the new site not be enabled, should your existing backup of site falls into containment zone? Would VMS be idle in present COVID scenarios?
VDS is the solution for the present pandemic situation. The reason being, when we talk about NetApp VDS, it is focused not only on on-prem environment, it is focused on the leading hyperscalers of the world as well. So let's say if you have an on-prem workload and you would like to migrate it to, let's say, Azure or Google Cloud Platform or AWS, you can do that using the NetApp VDS management or orchestration console.
Thank you, Amit. So, okay, time and again there is a query which has come that rather related queries, either from Abhirup or from Abhilash also, where they wanted to understand what are the minimum system requirements to the query specifically was what are the minimum system requirements for such software. Although it is not just one software, it is rather a solution. So what are the minimum system requirements? What is the tentative cost of setting up 8500 user setup? So these are the queries which were there. So Amit, would you like to take up this?
Of course. So when we talk about VDS or when we talk about VDMS, there are two solutions we are talking about. And when we talk about VDS solution, I would like to emphasize on the fact that this is purely a cloud-based SaaS model. So you do not have to deploy anything on premise. You have to just pay for the management of per user per month. So you're done with the system requirement, setting up servers, installation of software. That part is over. Now, when we talk about a solution for 85 users, you can definitely multiply that $12 cost with 85. That is for the management. That is for the VDS solution we are talking about. And now, where do you want to run these 85 desktops? Do you want to run it in an on-premise environment? Then we have to calculate what is the cost of running these 85 virtual machines in an on-premise infrastructure. Or if you want to run these 85 or host this 85 users in cloud, which particular cloud you are talking about, and on the basis of that, we can prepare bill of material. So this will have answer in two parts. One is for the actual infrastructure requirement for the virtual machines and the orchestration plane costs.
Thank you, Amit. Abhiroop, as you asked for minimum requirement of such setup. So whenever we are talking of such setup, do you want to inquire specifically with respect to VDI setup, or the one where we showed that how can you have better recovery services? If it is a VDI setup, let me VDI. Okay, thank you. So if it is a VDI setup, there are two parts to it, because there was another query which I wanted to answer with this. Whenever we're talking VDI, there are three factors rather. First is that if I'm to draw an analogy, then an IT owner of an organization setting up a new organization and deciding on what kind of an end user machine should a company buy. Should a company buy a laptop or a desktop worth 30,000? Should a company buy a workstation of a better or a higher configuration of worth 10 lakhs? Should a company buy Mac OS, Mac machines, or should a company buy Windows? So whenever a user is answering, whenever there is a question of some such question, VDI has been proposed as an alternative to buy physical assets. Now, if we are talking about 85, 100, 150 users, then we are talking comparative costs, but better control. If you're talking of a scale where the users of an organization exceeds 150, 200, 250, the more the number of users, the better ROI compared to buying physical assets. This is one perspective. If from an SI perspective, if I can take leverage to answer this question. Number one. Number two, whenever we are talking VDI, there are three portions. First is physical hardware. Now, physical hardware, essentially, we are setting up software. We're not giving you physical machines, but we are giving you an option to access a server, access a virtual machine on a server. Once when we're creating this hardware level, it is still traditional compute and storage environment that you need to have in your data center. From application perspective, there are other vendors like which help with the VDI setup, like VMware, like Citrix. These are the two which are leading this particular this particular field. So their VDI solution have matured. That is the software cost, which is besides NetApp. And the third portion is all of this would only depend on two essential type of information. One, when we understand the requirement. For example, at times VDI architecture has broadly has two kind of segregation. One is that you give persistent disk. Second is you allow your users to use shared resources. For example, VDI solution gives a far better an ROI if one single machine can be used by two different users. How? Two different users working on two different time zones, two different users working on different shifts. So that will give you leverage that you may only have to invest in terms of hardware of one of the machine, but by creating software profiles, both the users will be leveraging same hardware, and hence you'll be utilizing that hardware better. So overall, this entire VDI solution is pitched against buying physical assets. So that is how we measure the cost of solution, and that is how we bring out the ROI. But whenever we add security measures, whenever we add data security perspective, there, say for example, if an organization procures physical assets, hands over to those employees, then there are various hidden costs. Whenever you hand over physical asset to an employee, then not only does an organization need to provision for network resources, to factor for network resources, insurance of that physical assets, depreciation of the physical assets, and various endpoint solutions like encryption of the physical data in the physical assets in case the physical asset gets lost. Secondly, performance. So considering all these factors, and then foremost all data leakage prevention solution, endpoint security solutions, still administrator will not have complete control over the data residing in that machine, which is where VDI as an overall solution, even for 5 users or for 500 users, excel. There was another query regarding what kind of, in case an organization has factored for VDI, what kind of end user machine is required, high end, low end. So there are two parts to it. You may have a thin client also. You may have any traditional old machine with thick client. Thick client means a machine which would have an OS, probably a Windows or a Linux or anything, or a Mac. Thin client is a machine which may not even necessarily have a full-fledged OS. All it would need is probably a browser to run. Leveraging the browser you can access. At times there is zero client. So thin client is there is still some compute power. Thick client is just a browser to run. That is it. So whenever a VDI solution is considered by any organization, and whenever when they're talking about assets, I'll give you another example. There are various, for example, a retail store which has multiple machines. Those machines may only be zero client machines. So essentially all the data or all the computing is happening on the virtual desktop infrastructures which are there in the data center. Still, you'd have to have some interface to do input and output, to a certain monitor to show you the output, a certain keyboard to do the inputs into the VDI. So they provision zero client machine. Does it answer your query? Thanks, Amit. So there have been rather 3 queries from Mr. Nrisina. I'm sorry, sir. I'm not sure how if I'm pronouncing your name right. It says me Nrisina. Rajesh, can you answer that? Do you have any plans to support the startup and MSME?
So, startups and MSMEs, we would like to support. That's the reason we have come up with this, what we call as the starter kit with just 4-node configuration. When we say 4-node, it is not like the entry kit. What we have tested, what we have designed this for, you can go up to like 250 to 300 users as part of the VDI stack. It is small from that perspective, but for an MSME or a startup, it could still be a large environment. The second part could be, what we discussed earlier is that VDI, why don't you look at cloud? In fact, we can help you along with SISL. Together, we can architect the solution that you require, and then we can deploy this whole solution in the cloud. We can also monitor, manage this for you so that you're responsible only to, sort of pay the bill. We will take care of the rest on a lighter note. But in fact, if you're a small organization, when you're saying startup, I would recommend that you should go with a cloud solution. As you grow, then you can make a decision of whether you want to continue in the cloud, or do you want to, for data sovereignty, compliance requirements, if you want to bring back to on-premise, it would be a good time for you to make investments in your own data center. As a startup, the recommendation would be to go with the cloud. We will help you deploy in the cloud. All right.
So, sir, your another query was, as an audit firm, how can these solutions help? Sir, our understanding is that as an audit firm, data residing in a machine, data sharing is something which is of the extreme importance. For probably an audit firm, value of data goes beyond the cost of a solution also. And whenever we are talking this solution, we are talking about enabling remote workforce, how to securely enable remote workforce, and how to have an absolute control over data. So this is a solution, this is an offering. In fact, this is the solution or offering if you would want to have such a scenario. So I guess for an audit firm, this is solution which is of paramount importance. Gentlemen, I guess that covers pretty much all the queries that we've had so far.